now this webinar, so as I said, this is very timely. And I first thank Engineer Vindhya Wickramarachne, who is our exco member, who knew Engineer 𝐵𝐻𝐸 Dasanayake. I think you both are batchmates, I guess. Yes. So Engineer Vindhya suggested me that there is a biomedical engineer who can talk well about this topic and who has contributed immensely in this COVID-19 battle. Therefore, I welcome that idea, and I requested Vindhya to talk to Engineer 𝐵𝐻𝐸 and get his synopsis of the talk and also his brief biodata. And today, Engineer 𝐵𝐻𝐸 will talk about COVID-19 pandemic and how engineers can contribute, right? The effective engineering response against the global pandemic. Let me briefly introduce Engineer 𝐵𝐻𝐸 formally. He's a senior biomedical engineer with 8+ years of experience in the industry. He is currently working as a senior biomedical engineer and a project specialist at Medical Engineering Solutions at 𝐷𝐸 Private Limited, who is a pioneer in high-end medical engineering projects and after-sales services as the sole local agent for Siemens AG. 𝐵𝐻𝐸 graduated from University of Peradeniya, obtaining a Bachelor of Science of Engineering degree specialized in electrical and electronic engineering in 2012. He has introduced, actually he has shifted his career path from electrical engineering to biomedical engineering, and by attending advanced industrial training in high-end medical X-ray systems in 2013 from Siemens Global Training Center in Germany. He further extended his expertise in the biomedical field with an advanced training on radiotherapy systems. This is for treating cancer using high-energy X-ray from 𝐄𝐟𝐟𝐸 Incorporated in Madison, United States, Wisconsin. Then he has been involved and worked hands-on in numerous medical engineering projects around Sri Lanka. Some of the most recognized of them are PET, the PET scanner, famous PET scanner installation at Apeksha Cancer Hospital in Maharagama, MRI and gamma camera installation in Epilepsy Unit, National Hospital, Colombo, MRI cath lab and static X-ray system installation in Army Hospital, Narayanpeta, and MRI scanner installation in Jaffna Teaching Hospital. So these machines and the hospitals are very close to my heart, as also being my wife being a medical doctor, currently working at Lady Ridgeway Hospital. Then not stopping there, Engineer 𝐵𝐻𝐸 has stepped forward in sharing his acquired knowledge and experience by joining in with University College of Health Studies at Sri Jayawardenapura as a visiting lecturer and conducted classes on X-ray technology and instrumentation of biomedical engineering. His most recent involvement in the industry was teaming up with a doctor and another biomedical engineer in designing and manufacturing a simple mechanical breathing aid, ambu-bag respiratory aid, to fight the worldwide COVID-19 pandemic situation. It was a critically acclaimed successful project. So this is his brief biodata. During next hour, you will hear from him all his achievements and all what he knows about the biomedical engineering field, and also his other contributions to contain the COVID-19 pandemic. So with this small introduction, I want to start the session. The game rule is we will all switch off our videos and microphones. Only 𝐵𝐻𝐸 will switch on his video and microphone. I invite all of you to raise your questions in the chat box. And at the end of the session, I will take one by one all your questions, and 𝐵𝐻𝐸 will clarify all our questions. So with this, we can start the session. Let me invite Engineer 𝐵𝐻𝐸 Dasanayake to start his presentation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lalit, for the introduction, and I would like to thank you all for this great opportunity for me to talk in front of you guys in a webinar. And also, I would like to thank 𝐕𝐢𝐫𝐫 for introducing myself into IET to share my knowledge on the subject. So I hope you can see my presentation well.
You can make the slides bigger, Sajita.
Yes.
The
sure.
presentation mode.
Right.
Yeah.
So my presentation will be basically mostly about the coronavirus, because I know most of you might have heard a lot of stories, a lot of news, and even in the community, you may have gathered more and more knowledge about this new COVID-19 virus. But the only problem that there is the credibility of this information about this data. So my main goal on today's talk will be introducing what is COVID and how it will affect us as a virus and why it's a pandemic. That is now our my main goal today. And along with that, I will discuss a little bit about the new trends, new vaccines, and also the responsibility of the society, and most importantly, as engineers, what we can do during this pandemic time, how we can face it effectively without panicking or without lagging out from our original creativity as engineers. So let me start. So I would like to give you a summary of what we are going to talk today. So first, I will give a little bit of introduction into COVID. What is COVID? Like how it all started, like a brief timeline of the things and the origin of the virus. What is a virus? The origin of this special virus, and how it came to us, because we know it came from an animal and now it's with us. So how that spillover has happened. And in the next topic, I will talk about the health impact, the most important part, why it is dangerous, why we have to be careful of this virus. So that I will talk under the health impact, the infection, the symptoms, and the care that we need to protect ourselves from this pandemic virus. And then next, I will talk about the test and diagnostics. There are two main tests that we use here in Sri Lanka and even in other countries as well, the PCR test and the antigen test. I will talk about those two tests as well. And again, we know it's a virus, we have virus in our world, but why this specific virus has become a pandemic? So that's a very important topic, and we have to discuss about that. Only knowing that problem, we can make sure how we can prevent it's like spreading like wildfire in the world. So that's another topic that we have to talk about. And of course, the cure and immunity. So just last week, it has been confirmed that there is a promising cure, like a vaccine for this pandemic. So that's that's new news, new data. So there will be a lot to talk in under that topic as well. So I will go a little bit further in the vaccine section because most of this data is really new. So I hope you will take everything with a grain of salt, because it may change in the future. So, and of course, the herd immunity, the final situation of a pandemic, how we get up from a pandemic is like growing a herd immunity. I will talk a little bit about the herd immunity as well. So the social responsibility, most important part of a pandemic, how we can face this pandemic, what are the things we have to accept in a pandemic situation, how we can prevent it, and how we be progressive during this pandemic situation. And of course, in the next session about the engineering response. I hope all the members in our like webinar are engineers, are very well like priming in their fields, good engineers. So how we can contribute to the society with our big brains, with our advanced knowledge, with our skills, how we can contribute to the society to get over this difficult situation. So those are my 6 main topics, and I will discuss along those topics with time. So let's start with what is COVID-19. So what we know about COVID-19. Let's start from the beginning, the very beginning. So it all started around the best guess from the World Health Organization is it may have started during the latter part of November 2019. That's the guess. But the first patient was recorded with the symptoms, with a fever and a dry cough. It's a 57-year-old lady from Wuhan region. She was admitted to the hospital, and the doctors did the primary the test and everything. They identified this lady as a lady with a normal viral flu or a viral fever. So then this lady was admitted to the hospital, and along with this lady, within the next week, few others also admitted to the same hospital. Then only the doctors came together and they discussed, okay, there's something going on. There's a viral flu going on in the region. So we have to alert the authorities about this viral flu or viral fever. So that's how it all started. So when it comes to 30th of December 2019, it was well established that, okay, this is something new, because almost 40 patients were admitted to the nearby hospitals around Wuhan, and they all showed the similar symptoms: dry cough, fever, and some breathing problems, some difficulty in breathing. So it all these things pointed into a single strand of virus, single strand of flu. Then only the Chinese authority tried to find out the what is causing this new viral flu, and then they try to isolate, just like in Sri Lanka, we are very familiar with these things, like trying to identify how this the virus caused to the next person, what are the closely contacted people, and where are these people are from. So those things, they did those things, and then they found out, okay, it's converging to this special place, a wet market in Wuhan, a fish market actually. But they sold some wildlife in this fish market as well. So they converged into this the zero zone of the virus. And on the 30th of December, they declared, okay, we have something new. We have a virus. We have a new corona type virus spreading here in China, centered into Wuhan fish market. So they try to identify what this is. So because coronavirus is something very common in the world. It's been there thousands of years, and they want to identify, okay, is this the same thing? And so even within the last decade, there has been some 2 or 3 coronavirus outbreaks in the world, especially in China. Both times China was involved. So they really wanted to know, to isolate, what is this virus? Is it the same thing? Is it the same virus that has happened in 2003 or 2016? Is it a new strand of the same virus, or it is something new? So they try to isolate the virus, and they were able to isolate the virus in January 7th of 2020, and they did the genomic sequencing. It's like to identify the genetic code of this virus. So it's like identifying the DNA of the virus. So only by comparing genetic code to another, we can clearly say, okay, this is something new, this is not the old one. And so to do that, they sequence the genetical property of this newly identified virus. And it is something really amazing, because a few years back, doing a genomic sequencing will take months, because it's a hectic work. It's like billions of strands are there, and you have to be really precise, and you have to do a lot of biochemical processes into it, like just to get a single strand isolated. And then you have to do a lot of computing to compare this with the other strands they have already saved in their database. So it's a big job, but look at the time they have taken. It's like weeks. This is thanks to, I will start here, why engineers are important. This is thanks to computer engineering, because just because we have computer engineers, just because we have supercomputers, this thing is possible. So a big thanks to computer engineers in that point. Like why medical industry is so thriving in this time of the timeline of the world, because of things like that. So they have identified the genome of this special virus, and then they try to identify, okay, now we know the genome, can we trace that genome back to the things that we know? So what are the things that we know? We know the genomes of the bacteria, we know the genomes of the animal, we know genome of the human. So can we trace that genome of the virus to something that we know? So doing that, they have identified, okay, this genome is so much similar to a genome of a bat. So it's almost like more than 90% similar to a genome of the bat. And what is the rest of it? The rest of it is some other animal. At that point, they never knew what is that animal was, but later they have found out it's a pangolin. And now we have some idea, okay, this virus might have came from a bat and a pangolin. We will discuss about that later. How can two genomes of two animals get together to make a virus? And then how can that virus transported, spilled into another species, humans? Okay, so that happened in 21st of January 2020. They have identified, okay, this might have came from a bat. So then soon after that, the wet markets were locked down, and just after 2 days, the Wuhan, the complete city was locked down. It's like a massive project. They have never predicted of doing such thing, because it's a really new thing, like completely locking down a big city like Wuhan. It's like millions of people, and it's a highly commercialized area as well. So it's a huge task to undertake, and they have done that just because of the dangers they have predicted of this virus. So and of course the global health emergency was declared on the 30th of January, because they have identified, okay, this might have gone beyond Wuhan, when the time, because they have took like almost a month to respond to that the initial incident. And because of that, they have thought, okay, this might have escaped Wuhan already. We have to declare a global emergency to face this threat globally. So World Health Organization declared a global health emergency on 30th of January 2020. And they have named this new virus, because for scientific purposes, the scientists, the doctors, they have named this virus as SARS-2. It's like same SARS virus, but a different strand of it. But after they have identified, okay, this is something new, they need to name like they needed to give a new name for this virus, so they have named it as the COVID-19 virus. So sorry. Just a minute. Right. So in the 18th of February, they have reported how the humans get affected by this virus, because until that point they had no idea how this virus is attacking humans, how this virus is attacking the lungs, why the lungs are specific, and why it's really difficult to get out of the lungs. So those things were unknown in these first few weeks, and it's a really breakthrough in the medical industry, medical science, like trying to identify what this virus does. So they have done that breakthrough in 18th of February, identifying that this is attacking this ACE2 receptacle of human cells. The ACE2 is basically based on the respiratory system, lungs, and some in kidney, and some in like the digesting system, and some in some blood vessels. So this is the basic timeline. This is what happened in the first few months of the pandemic. So until this time, make sure it was not declared as a pandemic because it was localized. It was mostly, all the cases were in mainland China at this time, and only in only after Thailand got a new patient, they have identified, okay, it has gone beyond the mainland China area. So until this point, they have they thought, okay, this is something local, we can deal with this situation as a like a breakout of a virus, but not a pandemic. But after another month, in 11th of March, the World Health Organization declared this as a like a pandemic situation. It's going everywhere. It's in every country, every city. So we have to be careful of this situation. So that's the basic idea of what this COVID-19 is. So let's talk a little bit about this virus. Okay, now we know it's a virus which triggered a pandemic in the world. So it must be something different, right? Actually, no. It's a simple virus. See, so as you can see here. Sorry. So as you can see, even in this picture, it's a round virus with spikes coming out of it, and just because of this shape, it was called the coronavirus, because corona in Latin, it means the crown. If you look at this virus from a microscope, it looks like a round and a crown. It's a crown around it. So just because of the looks, they have named this type of virus the coronavirus, and then the name stuck, and we have several coronaviruses in the world. We'll talk about them later. This is the latest one. So we'll talk about how coronavirus can go into your body and replicate. So here you can see this is a corona type virus. I'm not calling this COVID because COVID is the latest member of this club, but coronavirus is something common we can see in the world. So this is a corona type virus. As you can, I can play the video. I hope you can see the video. So you can see the virus has spikes. These spikes will connect with the receptacles in the human or any other living organ cell. So that is the first part. And the second part is it will penetrate into the cell and then it will release this RNA. What is RNA? It's the genetic code. It has all the information of the virus, how it's made, what are these spikes are like, what is the outer dimension, what is the membrane, what is the concentration, what are the proteins that a coronavirus has. It's inside. That information is leaked into the human cell. So that's the part 2. And what will happen after that? This virus, this RNA, will trigger a sequence. It will give information to the cell to reproduce the proteins it need to make a new virus. So a ribosome is like the factory inside the cell. So why virus do something like that? Because virus, so as I can go to the back slide, so you can see here, it's a very simple mechanism. If you take a human cell, it's a very complex organism. It has many things inside a cell, like ribosomes, DNAs, sometimes RNAs, and some fatty membranes, proteins, everything will be there. But look at this virus. There's nothing, right? It has only a protein spikes, which will work as antennas to connect to other living organisms, and it will have this structure like a shell type of a structure made out of proteins, and just outside that it has a fatty membrane. And I'm not going to go deep into like biochemics, like biochemistry, because it's somewhat difficult and boring for us engineers, I hope. So and you have this most important part, this RNA. It's the information. It's like a blueprint to make another same type of a virus. So those are the main 3 or 4 things inside a coronavirus. Basically any virus will have these type of things. And some scientists, they call this as a non-living like non-living thing, like it doesn't have any life into it. But some scientists like to describe a virus as the simplest mode of living organisms. Like it's the very least of a living organism that you can have. So I think even I like that definition of virus, the simplest form of life. So so virus, it's like a man with a plan, right? It doesn't have a factory. It has a plan to make so many viruses of its own, but it doesn't have a factory. So factory will be the human or any other cell. So this is the factory that it uses. It will give the plan to the factory, and the factory will make the final products. The final product will be another virus. So this is what happens in the last phase. It will take all the proteins from the cell, and it will make itself another virus. It will duplicate the RNA and it will make another virus, and that virus will go out from the cell. What will eventually do this to the cell? It's using the ribosomes, it's using the proteins inside the cell, so it will destroy the cell eventually. After copying itself several hundred times, it will destroy the cell entirely. So okay, now we know the basic mechanism of a virus. Now we know what is a virus. Now we know why this coronavirus is called coronavirus, and we know that it can damage human cells just by replicating itself. So there's a special thing about virus. Normally we don't generate viruses. We do, but not these type of complex viruses. It's almost always coming from the environment, the things around us, mostly animals. So let's go to this special coronavirus. Okay, bats. What we know about bats? We have seen bats all around the world. Even in Sri Lanka, we have massive population of bats, and all these coronaviruses are coming from bats. So I think it's okay to say that bats are evil, right? Because all the viruses are coming from bats. Yes, there's a big scientific definition for it, scientific explanation for bats having the primary carrier of so many viruses. So when you look at a bat, you can see it's a winged mammal, right? So uh, as as for now, as for the findings of the scientific society now, bats are the only flying animals, flying mammals that we know in the world. There are a few other mammals who can glide, but the only full-time flying animal that we have in the Animalia kingdom, the only mammal who can fly is bat. So why that makes the bat so special, and most importantly, why that makes bats so immune to all these viruses? Because you have to be immune to virus to be a successful carrier. If the virus can make you sick, you can't be a successful carrier. But bats, they carry viruses, they don't get infected, they don't get sick. Why is that? Because just because they can fly, because the flying exercise has made their metabolism so intense that they can repair their cells so fast. So whenever the viruses attack their cells, just as the virus is attacking and destroying cells, maybe with a speed more than that, the bats, the metabolism works, and it's like anabolic and catabolic systems. The catabolic system can regenerate the damaged cells, they can repair the damaged cells so fast that the bat won't feel a thing. That's one. So now we know, okay, bats can have a virus and not get sick at the same time. The other thing is, you can see here, it's a bat colony. Can you count how many bats are there in this close encounter? There are thousands, sometimes million bats in the same enclose. Like mostly these like bat colonies will be in dark places like caves or like abandoned buildings or so. So these bats huddle together for almost during daytime. It's a hot and humid and dark condition, which is ideal for virus reproduction. So bats don't get sick, and they reproduce virus, and they spread this virus throughout the colony. And something special happens to a virus when it's reproducing. What is that? We know when we are back in university, we sometimes we copy our batchmates answers, sometimes some paras. So what will happen when we copy a paragraph? Sometimes we make small mistakes, right? So what will happen to the other person who's copying from me? I have made a small mistake, he's making another small mistake, like so it will, let's say it goes for like a cycle of 100. What will happen to the final answer and the first answer? There will be huge differences, right? So same thing will happen to a virus as well, because most importantly, virus is not like a complete organism. It will only have a short virus, a short RNA strand that will uh, mimic the same virus to reproduce another virus just like itself. But these mimicking, these reproduction cycles can generate errors. We call them mutations. So these mutations are very important to a virus to spread, because if a virus is not like changing with time, when it's not making new strands of the virus with different characteristics, the virus can't thrive in a society. Because with time, we like humans or animals, they create like antigens, they create some defense mechanism in their bodies, and they will destroy the virus. So the virus will be gone forever. But that doesn't happen because of this like mutation. So the bats, they huddle in millions, They exchange this virus from one to another, and then let's say 100 copies of an intelligent human can generate so much of errors. Think about a virus can do when it's copying through a species huddled together in millions. It will definitely change. So that's what happened to coronaviruses as well. They started in bats, but the bat can't infect a human directly because bat cell the cell structure is so different to a human cell structure. All these antennas, frequencies, everything is different. So the virus which is happens to be in a bat's body can't enter into a human body. It will be destroyed. It can't reproduce because it can't connect. It doesn't have the right frequency to connect to the human cell. But with millions and millions and millions of mutations, it can somehow generate a virus that doesn't affect bats much, but somehow that virus goes to a human cell, then it's in the right sync to attack to the human cells. But there's a catch. We humans and bats are so different in our genetic like genomes. Even though after millions of mutations, the virus in a bat cell can't attack a human cell. We need a carrier, like someone in between. Okay, remember I told you that there were few coronaviruses in the world. So these are the three main viruses which transformed from bats to the humans during the past. Actually, these are from the past 2 decades. So first one is MERS, that is Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome. That one started in bats and it transformed into camels, and then that one transformed from a camel, it transformed into humans. So it is called Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome because it basically the first cluster was located in the Middle Eastern countries because the most number of camels were there. So that thing didn't span out much because the virulity of the virus, the effect of the virus was not that bad, not that severe compared to the COVID-19, right? The virus that we have right now. And another one, maybe this one you might have heard, the SARS virus. It has made huge highlights, huge headlines in the news, in the global news even, because it also started in the Chinese mainland, and then it spilled out a little bit into the other countries, Africa, and all sort of countries as well. And that one went from bats to civet cats. Civet cat is something like a small cat-like wild creature who lives in thick to moderate forests, especially in the Asian region. So these civet cats got the virus from bats, and then that virus transformed to human through diet and close contact. This is something we will talk in the next slide, how these viruses like browed in the wildlife come into contact with humans. And the new coronavirus, the first name it has been given is SARS-CoV-2. So this virus came from bats into pangolins. Pangolin is it's also a rare wildlife. It's really rare here, especially here in Sri Lanka, but in other Asian countries there are like few more of these animals. And these pangolins have transformed that virus to human, but we are still in doubt what is the exact method of the mode of transmission. We suspect diet and close contact, just like the civet cats, because you might think, okay, who eats a pangolin, right? But even I'm not sure about Sri Lanka, but in many Asian countries like China, Korea, among Mongolia and some part of Vietnam, they consume wildlife as a source of food. So it's somewhat expensive food, but still they consume this wildlife as food. So the best guess right now is that the humans might have received this virus uh, from a pangolin, and that pangolin might have got the virus from a bat. So that's the spillage, the spillover that has happened throughout several species. This is really rare. This is really rare, and even there's a program in World Health Organization to find out the opportunities of something like this happening in the wildlife, in the even in the wildlife, and even in the human societies, the societies who really work together, who really work close encounter with wildlife, the different animal. Because if you are not going to the forest and living there, there's no real risk of having some disease a wildlife might have in their cellular level. But if you are going to consume them, if you are going to live with them, if you are going to keep this animal in close encounter with you, then there's a big risk of transforming a virus which already inside that animal. So that has happened time and time, and there's a big risk of it's happening again in the future. So let's talk about how this happened. So this is something sorry this is something happened in China. So remember I told you that when the doctors found out about the virus, at first they have converged the source of virus, the patient zero, into a wet market in Wuhan. So this is a wet market. So what is a wet market? So a wet market is some place, it's more like a Satipola in here in Sri Lanka, some place all the people in the area get together to buy meat and fish. So in a Sri Lanka, in a Sri Lankan situation, what are the meat that we consume in like a mainstream meat? Mostly chicken, beef, pork, and some other, but in minimum amounts. And because Sri Lanka, we mostly eat fish. But in areas in China, especially in the middle of China, the mainland, they eat both in the same amounts, like fish and meat. And most importantly, they eat all sort of meat. Just look at these cages. You can see many animals, like trash pandas, wild, like red pandas. I think it's a dog. So they eat almost everything. Some monkeys, and here you can see some bats even. So what happens here is this transformation. See, remember I told you that bats can't infect humans directly. So even though we have a bat colony in our home, we can't get affected. But if you keep a bat on top of a monkey, what will happen? Both these animals are living. They are not dead. It's not dead meat. These are living animal, living, breathing animal. So what will happen? This bat has the disease in his bloodstream and drips out, because this one is eating something. It drips out with the food down to this animal. It's a monkey. It can be a pangolin. It can be some other type of animal. It can be a snake. It can be a duck. It can be a chicken. What will happen there? You can see a direct gene mixing here. You can see a virus going directly from a live bat to a live monkey. And that monkey can get the virus, and that monkey can give the virus to the other monkey. That monkey can give the virus to another one. Like that, that virus will mimic, will pass through in this new species and in a new viral body, new informations, new strands, new virus, and that virus can affect humans at the end. So wet market is a huge threat to the world, And you might think, okay, why all these new viruses are coming from China? Because we have many new viruses coming from China in the past, recent past, like a few decades. This could be a huge reason, because this is a direct possibility of viral mutation and spillover. So and these are not like pets, they are going to eat this animal, so it's a direct spillage to human as well. And look here, they are like in close encounter with these animals. If some of these this animal have some sort of a foreign, like unique virus, it can easily go into these humans, and these humans can spread that into the world, right? Okay, now we have a good grasp of what is a coronavirus, and what are the other coronavirus, and how it can affect to the human body. So infection, if we talk about infection, now we know how a virus goes into the body, and how it's going to multiply in a human cell. And let's focus on how it can affect us as humans. So just like that, as I told you earlier, the virus will come to a close encounter with the human cells. And remember, I told you that it is not all human cells get affected by this special coronavirus, the COVID-19. It's some cells around the area, around the neck, around the throat, in the breathing pipe, and then the lungs, and sometimes it's the inner tissues of the gastro system, the digest system, and sometimes liver, sometimes kidneys. So these things are the most affected regions of the body. Let's talk why. So you can see this structure, right? This Y-shaped structure. That's a receptacle. We call these receptacles, the receptacles the coronavirus get attracted into, as ACE receptacles. I'm not going into like deep details on these things, because uh, it's a really long explanation for these ACE receptors. Just for the knowledge sake, I will tell. Okay, these ACE receptors work as like enzyme receptors in our body, uh, to communicate with one tissue to another about some information in the body. So these are specialized receptacles to receive some enzymes from one tissue to another. So it's more like a antenna to communicate in between the body. So these viruses will come and connect to this receptacle, the ACE receptacles, and this receptacle will acknowledge the virus, and it will let the virus to enter the human cell. And once inside the genetic material of the virus, this is the genetic material, the RNA of the virus, the plan, the blueprints of the virus, it will release this blueprint into the healthy cell of the human. So you might think, okay, is it happening all the time? Is it happening to almost all the viruses? The answer is yes. It will happen to almost all the viruses. But we have a defense mechanism in our body, the immune system. The immune system is so amazing. It can identify sometimes even a single cell mutation of our body. If the immune system can identify, okay, something foreign has come into our body, through skin, through mouth, through nose, through other cavities of the body, something has invaded our area, we have to attack. So that information is given by dead cells. Whenever a cell is dying, or it's dead already, it will give out a signal to this immune system, the police in our body. It's like more of like a warning, like a cry of help. It will give that, and then the police the white blood cells will pour in and they will attack the virus and it will destroy. But there's something tricky going on here. The the infected cell will read the RNA of this coronavirus protein, but it won't trigger the immune system at first. So it's like the first virus that will attack the immune the healthy cell won't trigger an alarm because of this special viral proteins that it has. It's one of the reasons that the coronavirus are really infectious, and it can give you like a viral infection more than some other viruses. That's one. So it will not trigger an alarm, but it will infect the cell, and it will duplicate inside the cell using the resources inside the cell, the resources that the cell have inside to its survival. So it will use that resources to make copies of the virus, and eventually it will destroy the cell. And the completed viruses, so one virus will enter and some several hundreds of viruses will go out of the cellular system. So in the last picture you can see the new copies of the virus goes out of the host cell, and eventually it will destroy the host cell. So only after few destructions of these kind of host cells will trigger an alarm, and then only the immune system will respond. Sometimes it could be too late if the host human is weak.